Welcome into the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee. Today's Wednesday, August 20th, and I got a big show lined up for you today. But before we get going, guys, do me a favor and hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel. We are going to be your best source for recruiting intel as we head into the fall. Also, it's time to join Rivals. Let's lock in. You can join Rivals now and you get a full year of access to The Athletic, plus all the content on the On3 national and fan site side. You're not going to want to miss it. The fall's here. Let's do it. I'm going to put the link in the description of this video. Today's show is a big one. Like I said, we're talking five-star recruits that were recruits a year ago that are now impact freshmen. Who is the next Jeremiah Smith? We're also going to talk a little transfer portal, and the 2028 rankings have dropped, and we have 5 players you must know now. But first, let's talk about the biggest developments of the week on the recruiting trail. Michigan wins the Savion Hyder battle. Was there a bigger development on Tuesday? It was decision day for the number 1 running back in America out of Mineral, Virginia, Savion Hyder. He had 4 hats on the table. You had Ohio State, Tennessee, Georgia, and the one that he put on, Michigan. And with that, Michigan moves into the top 10, right there at number 10. I thought the number 1 running back in America would move them a little bit higher into the rankings, but they are sitting at number 10. They booted the Miami Hurricanes out in Michigan. I don't think they're done yet. No major needs left to fill, but, I think they're going to go out this season and make some noise. Flip season is up next for the Wolverines. That Bryce Underwood flip last year, whatever you want to call it, the recruitment of Bryce Underwood, it was quiet at this time last year. We had no clue this time last year that Michigan was going to make a late run at Bryce Underwood. And, I just think we're going to hear more from the Wolverines later on. All right. We got 24 hours until there's another 5-star commitment, with Savion Hyder announcing Tuesday. On Thursday, we have another big one. 5-star safety Braylon Womack out of Mississippi is set to make his announcement. Now, the experts felt Ohio State would be the spot for much of the cycle. Like months and months of this cycle, Ohio State was the favorite. But a July official visit out on the plains changed it all, and Auburn is now trending for another 5-star recruit out of Mississippi. Last summer, it was Deuce Knight. But this Thursday, I expect Auburn to land Womack. Now, the Gators, also Texas A&M, they're making it interesting, but I think Auburn has this one. We got 24 hours. You guys let me know what you think. Inside Scoop fans, listen up. We got to talk Roback, and there's only one way to describe Roback. It's best fit, best feel. For those that aren't familiar with Roback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Now, Roback has released my favorite. It's their new licensed game day collection. Now, with novel polo designs and clean hoodie and a quarter zip design for some of your favorite schools, it is definitely worth checking out. Nobody else on the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Roback's everyday shorts or their Delta Performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They're super comfortable. I have them. They have an elastic waistband, great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice looking short, but also the comfortable feel for a day on the move. Roback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars past and present, and they're becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across this country. Now, here's what we're going to do. Use the code JOSH on Roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. Now, it's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with promo code JOSH. And then on Friday, the final 5-star commits. Yes, Darius Gray, the number 1 interior offensive lineman in America, is going to make his decision on Friday evening. And really, there's 2 teams here. LSU and South Carolina have been exchanging punches across the summer, across the spring. Really, these 2, Tennessee in there a little bit as well. But down the stretch, it feels like Shane Beamer's program is the favorite. Can they lock him in? We're going to find out. And then what happens when Darius Gray commits? Do we just shut the show down? Do we have nothing to do? Because once all the 5 stars are committed, there's no way that we'll be covering. There's no way they could flip. Yes, we'll get to that later. But for now, the final 5-star looks like he's coming off the board on Friday, and that's Darius Gray. All right, moving on. Number 1 quarterback visits are getting locked in. Let's talk 2027. Kavian Bryant from Palestine, Texas. He's the top-rated quarterback in the 2027 cycle, and he is ready to hit some games. So am I. I'd be excited if I was him. Look at this schedule. FSU on August 30th, Texas on September 6th, Texas Tech on September 13th. Now, I'm sure there's going to be more. These are just the early visits that he has on his schedule. So it's interesting that he's going to make it to FSU for the opener against Alabama because he was at FSU in the spring. They're a team to watch. He met with Mike Norvell, offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn. They're talking about even letting him play 2 sports, basketball and football. So I'd watch FSU, but you got to watch the in-state programs. Texas and Texas Tech right now. It's earlier for Kavian Bryant. I'm sure there's going to be more big visits. Actually, we're going to be reporting on a lot of big visits coming next week as we get into game week. So those are the biggest developments on my end. You guys talk to me. What were some of the biggest developments in the recruiting world to you? Let me know. Comment section below. Yesterday, they were 5 stars. Today, they're freshmen ready to make an impact. We're talking about the top recruits from the 2025 cycle that are about to become impact freshmen on the field this fall. I got the guy behind the rankings here at Rivals, Charles Power. We're going to break it down, but first, do me a favor, hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel. It's free. I don't ask you guys for much. Jump on board, hit subscribe. All right, Charles Power wrote a story on freshman All-American team. You guys can go read that on the front page of On3. We'll start. Why not start right at the top? Number 1 quarterback, Bryce Underwood. There's no doubt, Charles, he's going to make an impact for Michigan this season.
Yeah, Bryce Underwood, the former number 1 overall prospect. I think we knew that he was likely to be Michigan's starter the second he flipped from LSU to Michigan late last cycle. I think one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks that I've evaluated in my time of doing this. Just kind of a freak show physically, huge arm, plus athlete, 6'4", 230. I think we're going to see Bryce Underwood under center at Michigan this fall very early on, and I think it's going to be appointment viewing just given his talent level, and it's going to be really exciting to kind of see the progression he makes in his first college football season.
Yeah, and after the years of watching Jeremiah Smith as a freshman, Ryan Williams, Ryan Wingo even, there's no doubt if you're naming a number 1 wide receiver, you're expecting him to play early as a freshman, and that's exactly what DeCorian Moore is going to do at Oregon.
Yeah, if there's a receiver or even a skill player in this group who could have the Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams type of impact, I think you have to start with DeCorian Moore. He is kind of in that tier in terms of like he would have been a 5-star if he was in the 2024 cycle. Just outstanding athlete, great ball skills. We saw him make a bunch of big plays in Oregon's spring game. I think he projects as perhaps Oregon's number 1 receiver this year. And you're talking about a top 5 program with a true freshman coming in as perhaps the number 1 receiver. I think there's a lot to be excited about with DeCorian Moore, and I think he's going to be making a ton of highlight plays this fall.
Yeah, and there are 2 former 5-star DBs. Let's flip it over to the defensive side of the ball for a minute here. DJ Pickett and Grayson Littleton, they are trending toward not just making the 2 deep, but maybe they're going to start the season at the top of the 2 deep. We're talking DJ Pickett, Grayson Littleton. What do we like about them coming out of high school?
Yeah, so DJ Pickett, super physically talented. And I think when you look at the expectations that he comes to LSU with, I mean, they're hoping that he is a Patrick Peterson, Derek Stingley type of impact player. Both those guys were recruited and coached by Corey Raymond, LSU secondary coach. He has those same expectations for DJ Pickett. I mean, this guy is listed at 6'5", 195 on LSU's roster. So he is kind of a rare body type at corner, just super athlete, and a guy who I think we're really excited to see what he looks like in the SEC as a true freshman. And Grayson Littleton was a top 50 prospect for us last year. And anytime you see a true freshman nailing down a starting job or trending towards a starting job with on the number 1 overall team in the country, like that catches our attention and raises eyebrows. And he's just he's a technician. I mean, I think he's gonna probably be the starter at Texas in the nickel, and he can just really stay with receivers downfield. He has great feet, given what he showed in high school, it's not shocking to us that he has made this type of impact and assimilated to college football so easily early on.
All right, let's, as I said, stay on the defensive side of the ball. Another player that's buzzing out of camp over in Athens is Elijah Griffin. And, he was the number one player in an absolutely loaded state of Georgia last cycle. Elijah Griffin, we fully expect him to see some meaningful snaps this season.
Yeah, Elijah Griffin's the best defensive lineman prospect that I've evaluated probably in the last 4 or 5 years. And this is a guy who I think has the potential to have a Jalen Carter type of impact at Georgia. Now, of course, we know Georgia has a very deep defensive line rotation. Mm-hmm. So, I think they're always rolling those guys in. So the snap counts might not be super high relative to some other guys who are starting as true freshmen. But I expect Elijah Griffin to make a huge impact throughout his career at Georgia, starting this season. And I think, just some of the reports of what he's doing in workouts, the type of athlete he is, are kind of mind-blowing, but honestly that's similar to what he showed in high school. So this is a guy who has immense potential, and we viewed him coming into college football as the highest rated non-quarterback in the 2025 cycle. So that just kind of shows what we think of him, and we expect him to be a instant impact player for Georgia.
Yeah, and those snaps that he gets, it's not just going to be mop-up duty. I mean, he's going to see some meaningful minutes for Georgia early in the season. All right. Let's switch back to the offensive side of the ball. Offensive line class last year was loaded. Who do you think could play meaningful minutes in the trenches?
Yeah, Josh, we talked about this O-line class in 2025 as one of the best we've seen come through high school football in the last maybe 20 years. And we're going to see some of these guys pay immediate dividends as true freshman starters, which is not always the case. I think I immediately look at David Sanders, who looks to be the starting right tackle at Tennessee as a true freshman. Elite athlete, super twitchy, a guy who has always been advanced. We knew about him since he was in 9th grade. So this is a guy who's always been ahead of the curve. Expect similar at the college level. And then Michael Fasusi could be the starting left tackle at Oklahoma. If not early on, probably maybe by the end of the season. He was a guy who was a 5-star plus like David Sanders, top 10 prospect, very physical, super strong. He's younger for the class, so he's a guy who's still kind of molding into what he's going to be physically. But there's a ton to be excited about with him, and he's drawn some rave reviews from Oklahoma's offensive line coach, Bill Biedenbaugh, who's put a ton of players in the NFL. So I think there's a lot to be excited about with Michael Fasusi.
Absolutely. Any other names, maybe some skill guys that you think, hey, these players are going to be on the field early at their respective schools? Yeah,
there's several, and this is very hard to put together. There's still a week worth of practice, and true freshmen are always developing at different rates. But two guys who did not make the team, who I would keep an eye on, both in the state of Florida, running back Usman Kroma at Florida State. I could see him being the starter at Florida State maybe by midseason at running back. This is a guy who's just really physically developed, huge. He is an elite tackle breaker, outstanding pass catcher out of the backfield. So he's a true 3-down back. I think if he had enrolled early at Florida State, it would be more of a slam dunk to be a week 1 starter. But I think once he gets his feet wet, he's going to take off and probably be the main ball carrier for Florida State. And then Vernell Brown, we had Dallas Wilson, a Florida receiver on this team. He is going to miss some time. He's going to miss maybe like a week or two with an injury. And Vernell Brown, also in that Florida class, he's just – I could see Vernell Brown just eating targets. This is a guy who's really effective at working the underneath and intermediate areas of the field. I think he's going to be a quarterback's best friend for DJ Lagway. So he's one who I think we could look at the end of the season and see Vernell Brown caught 30 or 40 passes.
All right, we named a bunch of freshmen, but what about your team? Who do you think is going to make an early impact? Let us know. Comment section below. The transfer portal's reshaping how programs build their rosters. Teams aren't just in the portal for depth pieces anymore. No, they are looking for bona fide starters. And in this video, we're going to break down the recent On3 Pete Nakos article about the 2025 preseason all-transfer team. But first, guys, do me a favor. Hit subscribe. It's time to lock in. Season's here. Rivals Recruits channel is where we're going to hang out all season long. All right. Let's head down to Coral Gables. Miami OC Shannon Dawson has gone on record saying that he thinks he has another number 1 pick. And I'm not just talking first rounder. He means number 1. Miami went out and landed former Georgia quarterback Carson Beck this offseason. He's got some big shoes to fill with Cam Ward leaving, but he's healthy heading into the season, and he's ready to prove to Miami fans and NFL scouts that he is indeed a first-round talent. Let's head to Auburn, where that wide receiver room is already absolutely loaded, and this is due to a major transfer portal addition this offseason. Auburn was able to reel in top wide receiver transfer Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech. He was one of the most proven wideouts that became available. 104 catches, 9 touchdowns over the last 2 years. He is electric with the ball in his hands and a known speedster. All right, another wide receiver. With Garrett Nussmeier returning to Baton Rouge for one more season, it was absolutely imperative for LSU to land a playmaker out of the portal. Enter Barian Brown. The former Kentucky Wildcat racked up over 1,500 yards in Lexington and was a first-team All-SEC selection in 2024. Brown should make an immediate impact on offense and special teams as an LSU Tiger. Let's head out to Oregon, where Dan Lanning wanted to add beef in the trenches this offseason, and he did just that by landing 6'8", 312-pound offensive tackle Isaiah World. Now, World transferred from Nevada, and now that he's at Oregon, there's word that he could be a potential top 10 pick if it goes well this season. All right, cornerback Jeremiah Wilson. Word out of Tallahassee is that the Houston corner is already locking himself into a starting job. Wilson finished third in the Big 12 last season with 4 interceptions. We'll see what he can do in the ACC this season. All right. Texas went to the portal to add beef up front, and that's exactly why they made Syracuse freshman standout Murad Watson a priority. 6'3", 313 pounds. They jumped on him when he hit the portal, and he's going to be in Austin for a little bit. Remember, he has 3 years of eligibility, and he could be a big part of Texas's run at a national championship this year. All right, full story from Nakos is up on on3.com. I encourage you all to go watch it. Did your team get a transfer this season? Is he an impact player? Let us know. Comment section below. We got a rankings update. The first ranking, the Rivals Top 100 for the 2028 class, is out now. These recruits are entering their sophomore season, so in a couple months after their sophomore season is over, it'll expand to a top 300, but we're excited. I got Director of Scouting and Ranking Charles Power here. We're going to get acquainted with the top 5 players in this 2028 cycle. But first, you guys do me a favor. Season's almost here. It's time to subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel. If you watch one of our videos this summer, jump on board. It's going to be a busy fall. Hit subscribe. All right. We got Charles Power. We're going to talk first about the number 1 player in the class, wide receiver, Bryson Wright. Why is he Rivals' number 1 player in 2028?
Perhaps the best freshman receiver that I have scouted in my time of doing this. And that comes with a massive caveat that it's a freshman. He has to continue getting better. But he was the best wide receiver that we saw on the 7-on-7 circuit this offseason. He is a monster at the catch point, just kind of dominant in contested catch situations, 6'3", 210, just kind of a grown man, and he's only 15 years old. And we saw that play that he had in the 7-on-7 tournament that went viral with the crazy one-handed catch. There's just so much to like about what he brings to the table. And now, of course, he's going to have to continue getting better, but Bryson Wright is a prospect that's really worth getting excited about this early.
And he is at Jacksonville Mandarin. Last year, we had Jamie French at Jacksonville Mandarin, 5-star wide receiver that ended up signing with Texas. Let's stay in the state of Florida. Quarterback Champ Mons. He's over at Vero Beach High School, 6'2.5", 219 pounds, heading into his sophomore year.
Yeah, Champ Mons, in our opinion, had the best freshman season among the top quarterbacks. So he is sitting at pole position going into the sophomore season. Like you said, Josh, very physically developed. He looks like a college player right now. He's got 10.5-inch hands, a true dual threat, a guy who can stress defenses in multiple ways. So there's a lot to like about him early on.
All right, in the 3 spot, Gage Weddle. Now we're leaving Florida and we're heading across the country, San Diego, California. 6'1", 175. He's an athlete. What do we project Gage Weddle to play on the next level?
Yeah, Gage Weddle is a do-it-all athlete, plays quarterback and safety for his high school. If that name sounds familiar, he's the son of former all-pro safety Eric Weddle. So this is a guy who has the pedigree, and he's just a phenomenal football player. Great tackler, explosive athlete on offense. So there's a lot to like about Gage Weddle. I think he is a guy who probably projects as a safety long-term, but we could see his body maybe becoming a linebacker. I think we view him as primarily a back half defender, but he's really good on offense too. So he's just, in our opinion, a great football player, and we'll kind of sort the rest of that out, over the next 3 years.
Yeah. Plenty of time to see how he develops. Can't wait to see it. We're just bouncing coast to coast here. Number 4, we're back in Florida. West Broward High School over in Pembroke Pines, Florida.
Yeah.
We got Amir Sears, 6'1", 160 pounds.
Yeah, and it's an amazing year in Florida for 2028. And there's so many great players in the Sunshine State. And Amir Sears is the top corner early on. He's got really good stature, 6'1", kind of a pure cover corner. We really like what we saw on film from his ability to stay in phase downfield with receivers. So there's just a lot of polish and refined skill set early on.
All right, back to California. Fontana, California. We see Marcus Fakatu, and he is, Charles, is this right? 6'7", 260 pounds.
Yeah, he's a massive defensive lineman, a guy who really plays as a big defensive end. But we could ultimately see him being a 300-pounder very easily and sliding inside. Huge stature, moves well. He's had a good first step. Had a very productive season playing in arguably the most competitive high school league in the nation, in the Trinity League out in California. So he's a guy who is very advanced physically, just a massive defensive lineman, kind of big defensive end type, and he's one who's gonna have a ton of attention moving forward.
There you go. That's Charles Power, top 5 players in the 2028 class. As I said, the top 100 is out. The top 300 will be out in a couple months, but right now, go to the front page of Rivals.com and go check out all the top 2028 names.